is Mike Florio from ProFootballTalk.com, who we've been having on for almost the entire 30 years. Our old producer, Brett Oliverio, found out in some sort of reunion in West Virginia that I think he was related to like Mike's wife or something like that, some sort of connection. Mike, how long has ProFootballTalk.com been going?
November 1 of this year will be 25 years. So you guys have me beat by 5 years, and that makes me feel less old than I otherwise would. So thank you.
Oh, good. Well, glad we could provide that for you, that level of comfort.
So
You got it.
before we get into anything really super serious, and maybe some people would think this is serious, let me ask you about Jaden Daniels in this game in Saudi Arabia, because there are some Commanders fans that are like, guy missed all these games. How's he going to play in this flag football game? What have you heard on this Fanatics game?
Well, Jaden Daniels wasn't among the players who were initially listed as participants when this first hit last September. And then at some point in the past couple of months, there was a supplemental announcement that Jaden Daniels is going to participate. He's going to be one of the team captains. It's a 3-team tournament. Tom Brady's the face of the whole thing. Fanatics is putting it on. And we had Jaden Daniels with us 2 weeks ago at the Super Bowl, and we asked him about it, and he said he didn't know yet whether he was going to go. And I'm like, wait, they already announced he's going. So I forgot about it because it was Super Bowl week, and there were 1,000 things going on. And then last week, it's like, hey, I forgot Jaden Daniels seemed equivocal about this thing that he's announced to be a part of. Let me scratch that a little bit more. And I've yet to get a clear answer. And my assessment and judgment and analysis currently goes like this. I believe he's hoping the team tells him not to do it. And I believe the team wanting to support the effort of Jaden Daniels to go get an extra bag, because I'm sure the payment will be significant. The team is kind of hoping he'll decide on his own not to do it. And everybody's being very polite and deferential to each other. But the bigger picture here is he's got a critical season coming up. It's his third year. After this season, he's eligible for a second contract. The last thing he needs is any sort of tweak, injury, anything that would impact his preparation to have the best season possible in 2026. And when you have Tom Brady doing this WWE-style hype argument with Logan Paul about what a serious game it's going to be, and it's real competition, it's real football, it's this, it's that, I think that makes the guys who are thinking, I thought this was just kind of like casual, run around and catch passes and throw passes, it would make them even more leery. And I don't want to take anything away from this effort to globalize the sport, and flag football is a way to get kids all across the world playing, but you got guys who have bigger fish to fry as it relates to their commitments to their careers, their teams, and all it takes is one bad moment. And I think we talked a little bit with Jaden off air. I may have mentioned Robert Edwards to him. He's the guy who played for the Patriots, had a great rookie season, and was participating in a beach football game in connection with the Pro Bowl that year, and suffered a serious knee injury that entailed an artery that was cut, and they were talking about amputating it. It's not worth taking on any additional risk if you're Jaden Daniels. And I know people get sensitive about that because everybody wants this thing to be successful. But, man, I think both Jaden Daniels and the team realize this may not be worth whatever tiny risk is involved. And I just wonder whether or not he's ultimately going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Mike, you touched on teams leaving Jaden Daniels and players leaving the country. The Niners are not only going to leave the country to play in the opener against the Rams in Australia. It's recently been announced. They're also going to go to Mexico City. They also have East Coast trips to both Atlanta and New Jersey. Do the Niners and their front office, do they have a legit,
say in that?
Beef with the league? Like you guys are making us travel way too much. This is too much for us, but look, this is what they've signed up for. There's nothing they can do about it, but do they have a beef? Should they have a beef with the league for this travel schedule?
Hey, anything to get away from that electrical substation.
Yeah, right.
I don't think that they have anything they can really do other than complain. The NFL isn't going to undo the decisions that have been made. The NFL is very, very committed to the playing of international games. Under the current labor deal, they can stage up to 10 per year. They want to push that number to 16 at the same time they increase the length of the season to 18 games, and they're determined to do that, even though the NFL Players Association has made it clear that they have no interest. I think that's just a negotiating point, and I think the NFL is going to try sooner than later to get the season to 18 games. So it's just part of the gig, and it's like 38,000 miles of travel for the 49ers this year. Just another piece of adversity, just another hardship, and every team has to deal with them. But when you get into travel imbalance like that, it becomes a potential problem. And the Australia thing is ridiculous. The 19-hour time difference, and the season may start on a Wednesday night with that Australia game, with the Seahawks playing on Thursday night in the traditional Super Bowl champion opener. I don't know. Chris Sims said this when we were talking about it on PFT Live a couple of weeks ago. When he was playing for the Buccaneers years ago, they played a preseason game in Japan. And he said that messed them up into the regular season. The time change, the travel. It's just a hell of a thing to start the season with. But that's really the only time you could do something that's significant, because if you try to drop it in the middle of the season, you're really putting the team at a disadvantage. So, yeah, the 49ers are going to have multiple disadvantages relative to their competition this season.
Hey, at least they don't have to play in California where they get taxed about 80% on their salaries. Hey, so what time would they actually play that game in Australia? What time would they play that here?
There's been all sorts of conflicting things about the day, the time. I think it would be a Wednesday night or Thursday night primetime game. Okay. Now, I thought at first maybe they would play it on Labor Day weekend and just get the season started then and give both teams 2 weeks to recover for their next game. And I still think that's possible. I just don't think anything's set in stone. The one clear takeaway, though, is the people in Australia will play that game whenever it has to be played. They just want that game. Whatever it takes to accommodate the schedule for televising the game in the United States, they'll do it. Whatever we need, whatever we want, that's what they'll do. So I don't think that's the impediment. It's just a question of figuring out what's the most fair way to handle this as it relates to the two teams, if the NFL even cares about the travel burden, the time difference, and all of the recovery from starting your season with a game in Melbourne, Australia.
Hey, you talk about this on the site here. What are some of the teams that have some, big decisions to make in terms of franchise tagging some of their players? So you talk about Breece Hall here on the story that I'm reading here. Maybe Kenneth Walker in Seattle. What are some of the teams and players that could be affected by this?
Well, the Seahawks reportedly are unlikely. Now, unlikely has some wiggle room in it because unlikely isn't absolute to use the franchise tag on the Super Bowl MVP, meaning he'll be a free agent. The Jets had a chance to trade Hall last year during the season, so they may have a tag and trade plan in mind. The big name, though, the guy who first came up as a potential franchise tag candidate is George Pickens, the guy the Cowboys traded for last year. He had a career season, over 1,400 receiving yards, second-team All-Pro. And they love him and they want him, and they may have to tag him. As of a couple of days ago, there had been no indication of any long-term negotiations. He's represented by the same guy that represented Michael Parsons, so that could get a little spicy when Jerry Jones tries to put the squeeze on George Pickens and maybe negotiate with him directly. So Pickens is really, I think, the biggest name this year. The Colts have a decision to make with Daniel Jones, but he's coming off of a torn Achilles. I don't know that you need to slap the franchise tag on a guy that, number one, wants to stay, and number two, isn't going to have a land rush for his services, given that he's recovering from that serious injury. So Pickens, to me, is the big one. Last year, there were only two guys tagged, so I don't know how it's all going to play out. And some would say the only thing that matters is the deadline on March 3rd, but I could see a team or two like the Cowboys applying it now, because next week in Indianapolis for the scouting combine, it's tampering central. And if you apply it before everyone goes to Indy, you let all the other teams know, don't waste your time trying to sniff around our guy and trying to line something up, because you got to deal with the franchise tag.
Joined by Mike Florio, founder of ProFootballTalk.com on the Rude Guest Hotline. So are the Dolphins really going to take a nearly $100 million cap hit for getting rid of Tua Tagovailoa in 2026? Like, that would be, basically one third of their upcoming cap? How's that going to work out?
Yeah, I was stunned when I heard talk of that yesterday, and it was just something that kind of fell into my lap, and I started talking to some other people, and it's like, you could make the argument, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Let's treat 2026 as a rebuilding / soft tank. Yeah, imagine that. Nearly a third of your cap dollars the entire year going to a guy who isn't on the team anymore. Now, that assumes that they end up cutting him. I think they'd love to work out some sort of a trade, but you're going to have to pay him a lot of that money. Hell, you may have to attach a draft pick to him like the Texans once did with Brock Osweiler to get his guaranteed contract off the book. They sent a second-round pick to the Browns to just take this guy on and pay him, at the time, $17 million fully guaranteed. That was 9-10 years ago. So the Dolphins have a mess, and it's their own fault. Look, they paid Tua when he was entering the fifth year of his rookie contract. They had picked up the fifth-year option. He was due to make about $24 million in 2024, and they gave him this market-level deal, and they've regretted it ever since. And now they owe him $54 million fully guaranteed this year, and you got a new regime there, and they may cut him and take it all now. I think it makes sense to split it. You could split it like between 55 this year and 43 next year. That makes more sense to me. But, yeah, there's a thought that they may just take the full 99 and move on.
Wow. That's crazy.
What happens with Malik Willis? Could he end up in Miami?
Well, if they take the full 99, how are you going to pay Malik Willis? That's the other problem. Even if you don't take the full 99, how do you properly pay Malik Willis? Now, there's a way to structure it so the bigger cap hits would come in 2027, but he's got the connection to the new head coach, Jeff Hafley, who was in Green Bay the last 2 years with Malik Willis, and John Eric Sullivan, who was part of the front office that really stole Malik Willis for a seventh-round pick. I mean, it's amazing how the Titans mismanaged the guy who had real potential, and they just decided they didn't want him. Seventh-round pick before the 2024 season. Every time he's played for the Packers, he's played incredibly well. Mm-hmm. And, if the Dolphins can't swing it, I think there's going to be multiple teams that are interested in giving Malik Willis an opportunity to come in and not just compete to be the starter, but be the starter. And one thing that intrigues me, to the extent that family connections matter, Matt LaFleur is the one that's really developed this guy, and Mike LaFleur's brother is the new head coach in Arizona, and they're likely moving on from Kyler Murray, and they're going to need a quarterback. And sometimes the dots are so obvious you can't not connect them. Why wouldn't Mike LaFleur be interested in Malik Willis? If Matt knows he's leaving Green Bay, and he has to leave Green Bay, they have Jordan Love. Yeah, Matt can tell Mike everything he needs to know, and Mike may decide we got to have this guy in Arizona.
Hey, Mike, we've been talking the last couple of days about whether Adam Peters and Dan Quinn want to go out and spend a bunch of money on free agents. Now, they've got a bunch of money to spend. They've got between 75 and 80 million cap space. It's my prediction they're going to go out and go out and get two big name free agents, at least two. Do you think they're going to go out and make a splash in free agency after the last couple of years of just – now, they did trade for some big names this past year with Lattimore and then Tunsil. But in terms of free agents, they were just going out and getting, one-year guys. But I think they're going to make a splash. What's your thought on that?
This is the last year before you got to pay Jaden Daniels, assuming that when the 2026 regular season ends, it's clear that he's the guy who's going to get a market-level contract or something close to it. Last year, 24, yeah, he's the guy. 25, the injuries are at least something that give you pause because, at the quarterback position, to be a true franchise quarterback, you got to be available more often than not. That's one of the things that dragged down Tua Tagovailoa. And one thing I noticed when we were with Jaden 2 weeks ago, he does seem to be a little bigger, a little thicker. When he came into the league, it's, he's kind of skinny. Like, you're going to have some natural armor to withstand the beating that comes with playing in the NFL, and he may be evolving into that, but that's really the key. So my point is this. This is a year to spend. This is a year to use that cap space because there's a good chance after this season Jaden Daniels is going to be getting a big contract, and he's going to be counting for a lot more under the cap than he does now. Mm-hmm. So, this is the opportunity. And, to the extent that last season failed expectation, that's the problem with having a great first season for a new regime. You push that bar way too high, and if you regress, man, it looks bad. And I don't know who's going to be on the hot seat in 2026, but if they have another disaster, right. I can't imagine that the only consequences will be the coordinators get fired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been talking about that. I mean, if DQ has another 5-win season, it might be history.
And it's amazing how quickly you can – look, you build equity quickly in the NFL, and you squander it quickly too. And There's nothing worse than a 5-win season
right.
when people were expecting a 13-win season.
Yeah. Now, I don't think that. I think Jaden is going to play much better and be healthier. I'm not saying he's going to play a full season, but I don't think he will. So I think he'll be fine. But they do need to go out and get some talent. And they only have so many draft picks. So they have to go out or trades, if it's a Max Crosby, someone like that.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Look, when you've got the most important position in football taken care of, you have an opportunity and an obligation to put as many good players around him as possible, make sure he's got the blocking, make sure that the defense is competent. And, the Eagles are the Eagles, and who knows what they're going to be this year because they've had another overhaul in the offensive coaching staff. But, the Cowboys may be improving, and the Giants under John Harbaugh are going to be better.
Yep.
And there's pressure there to get more out of this special quarterback. And he is special. And when he's healthy, he's virtually unstoppable, and he's fun to watch. But that just puts the onus on everyone to spend right, to use the draft picks on the right players, develop your talent, and build out around your quarterback.
Hey, Mike, congratulations on your upcoming 25th. That's pretty awesome, and we always appreciate you coming on the show.
All right, good talking to you guys.
All right,
Thanks,
thank
Mike.
you, buddy.
See you, buddy.
Pro Football Talk wasn't huge when we first started having him on.
No, he was like us. He was doing it out of the basement. Mm-hmm. Like he was doing it out
he
of the
was
basement.
a full-time lawyer
We didn't have basements.
doing it on the side.
Yeah.
And the thing blew up to now he's on NBC and he's got a show every day. Completely blown up.
Yeah.
I think NBC bought the site. I mean, I don't know the deal, but they bought the site.
Sure was lucrative. I'm sure it worked out well for him.
Yeah, so very cool. All right, coming up next, we'll open up Evie's entertainment page here on the Junkies.